What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Boozer here. Thanks for stopping by. Today's video, we are on the test server here, so we're going to do some crazy stuff with our Titus Blackplume, the brand new Void Legendary fusion that's going on right now. Now, before we jump into some of the craziness, I want to let you guys know that the content creators have basically been talking to Plarium on a daily basis, almost every couple of hours, basically questioning them, their decision on allowing Titus to basically go into the game unchanged. This mechanic of the damage based on shields is not anything new. And, based on what Plarium has said they know about this mechanic. They're okay with it and it's working as intended. They have no immediate plans to nerf this champion. But of course, they leave the door open to nerf any champion in the future. So you guys can take that with a grain of salt. Personally speaking, I think that even though Titus has the same mechanic as Cadaver did back in the day, Cadaver is a rare champion, and this is a Void Legendary champion. And just based on Plarium's overall track record, they don't really like to nerf champions. They like to bring champions up instead. So we will have to see exactly what happens, but as of this day, we have to just use the information that's given to us. So personally, I will still be going for Titus myself. Also, I want to say that in this video, the champion Titus and the team that he's in is using some pretty specific and good gear. Obviously, use your own judgment and assess how well he will be in your account based on your own gear level. So without further ado, let's jump into exactly what I'm talking about here. So Titus Blackplume, he's an absolute monster for basically any kind of boss content right now, but he does require some specific teams and specific basically abilities to go along with him. So every one of these bosses are going to be suffering big damage from this guy. So let's first jump into Demonlord Clan Boss. So obviously Demonlord Clan Boss is not a very big piece of content that people really care about in this game anymore. But if you happen to have this guy, he is going to be absolutely insane when paired with Wixwell or Brogni. So I want to preface as well that Titus here is going to get the best bang for the buck if you have Wixwell or Brogni. Without these two champions, he cannot grow the shields large enough to do the insane amounts of damage. Now, the rest of his kit is still serviceable, not just his A2, which is what is kind of busted about him. Obviously, his passive is very good, and then his A3 and the conditional kind of passive effect of his A3 is also very good. And actually, his A1 is actually very good as well, basically giving the block active skill ability to any of your allies that go through any of these counterattack, ally attack, or instantly activated skill abilities. So his kit is overall not bad and useful, but the big thing about him is his A2 here, and it's Big Smack. But like I said, requires Wixwell and Brogni to get maximum benefit from him. So with all that out of the way, how do you get some insane numbers here with Titus? So he absolutely crushes the clan boss for basically max turns and max damage against clan boss. So if you guys need, basically a carry for your whole clan to bring down difficulties and move up and all that, this type of team would definitely work. So what you really need in this type of team is basically multiple buff extenders. And this is going to apply to basically all the bosses. So generally how you build a team with the shield mechanic top of mind is basically just have ways to extend the shield. There's basically 3 shields you can start off in the game. So first you can have like a shield set. You can have a shield that's applied by a skill, and then you can have like the magma shield, which is, you can start with 3 shields. And if you can grow all 3, and if you can extend all 3, then you have 3 shields worth of damage for Titus. So a team like this works super well. We have Wixwell here that does the growing of the shield. That's the other thing that you need. That's why Brogni and Wixwell are so good and so necessary, because they grow the shield. And then you have the extenders as well. He also extends the shield. Mikage's here to extend the shield. Hatter's here also to extend the shield and buffs. And then you have Lydia here with decreased defense and weaken. But yeah, we'll do a run here real quick. I'll show you guys exactly what this team can do. It should reach the max turns and max damage, which is 2.14 billion damage. So we're talking billions of damage. There it is, max damage against the clan boss. I don't think you can exceed this and then you reach the max turn limit as well. And personally speaking, like this team is definitely over geared to achieve this. I'll show you guys the exact stats here of what I'm working with. And I'm basically just using the same champions for all 3 of the clan bosses in this showcase video here. So I'll show you guys the builds at the end of the video. So that's the Demonlord clan boss, basically just completely blown away by this type of team. You bring your decreased defense, and then you bring a bunch of extenders, and then you bring Wixwell or Brogni. And in terms of overall speed tune, you want Titus to be the last one, and then you want the extenders to be the fastest champion. But the speed ranges are very, very flexible. As long as they are in relatively the correct order, there's a lot of leeway against the clan boss here. So let's jump over to the Hydra clan boss, and I'll show you guys what we did over there. All right, so this is the Hydra team that I kind of put together here, and it works really, really well. But there's going to be a lot of things that make it a little bit difficult to play, to be honest. And if you plan to full auto this, I don't think you're going to get the best results out of it. It's definitely going to be, like a manual if you want to achieve like crazy amounts of damage. We're basically using the same 5 characters from our clan boss team. So we got the Hatter, we got Wixwell, Lydia, Mikage, and Titus, and then we're adding in Lammasu. So Lammasu is really, really good here. She brings the block buffs, which is still very important against Hydra, decreased speed, which is still very good, and then she brings a reset. She brings a skill reset, which basically allows you to basically grow your shields even more. So let's see some of this in action. I'm not going to show the full run, but we'll go through it, and we'll talk a little bit more about this. Yeah, so you open with the ally attack. We have one provoker here with the Wixwell, and it's totally enough because he is 100% against the bosses. So we're going to do the buff ups here, and then we're going to set up for a big grow, right? So that's kind of like the strategy with Wixwell. You want to set up most of your buffs, and then you set up with and then you get your big grow going on. You want your extensions as soon as possible. I find that even with 3 extenders here and Lammasu, you still need to prioritize on extending before anything else, to be honest. And nobody else really does damage on this team other than Titus. You can do enough damage to free Titus, but you definitely don't want him to be eaten first. So the way you can avoid him to get eaten is to have him not in the highest crit damage. Easier said than done, because my Titus here is 6-star fully blessed, and he has a lot of crit damage. But if you can make him not the highest crit damage, then he won't get eaten first. So that job for me in this team is going to be Lammasu. Lammasu has the highest crit damage out of the entire group. And you can kind of watch our team start pegging away. It's actually going to take a little bit to ramp up. You guys set up and stuff like that. Everybody else getting stuff stolen, it's not the worst, but you definitely don't want Titus to get any of his stuff stolen, of course, right? So our Titus actually built with resistance. So it's kind of like the fabled resistance high damage dealer, high damage dealing nuker. But everybody else on our team, you fit resistance wherever you can, but it's not super necessary. Obviously, saving your buffs save you a little bit of hassle. Obviously gives you more buffs, and then your grow gets bigger and all that. For Hydra, it can get pretty ridiculous because of the amount of buffs on 6 teammates. But there is a cap on the shields, so there's 1 million HP cap now. Previously, it was no cap, which is why it got kind of crazy. But nowadays, there is a cap. We are running Magma Shield, so it gives us the starting extra shield here. Magma Shield is a mythical relic. So if you're fortunate enough to have it, definitely slot it in on one of your champions. It gives you an extra shield. It's going to give you a little bit more damage. You can kind of see here, we're having a little bit of trouble against the Head of Torment. What I found works pretty good is running somebody maybe like Duchess. You could run Duchess instead of maybe somebody like Hatter. But Hatter's really good because Hatter brings the extension as well as AoE Hex. And that's where a lot of your damage is going to come from Hex. So since Titus is a single target hit, you need the Hex to basically distribute the splashing. So, And since you want, all different types of sets on your champions, you're not going to have that much flexibility applying Hex to everybody. If you had somebody like Krisk handles a lot. He makes building these teams ridiculously easy. So I don't have Krisk. So the fact that Krisk brings so much, and then he has the buff extension, and then he has a shield, makes him basically like the perfect champion to help you build a team, around this shield mechanic. So, all right, what else can I say? Obviously, you want to set up your Hex, and then you can kind of see the big slam there. You can watch the damage ramp up. It's going to be crazy. But yeah, you want to basically have Hex on everybody before you make your big hits. You could send Lamasu's reset into Titus to reset his A2 more often, so you get more of it. But you gotta be careful about him taking too many turns relative to how many turns his buffs are up. So later in the battle, when you have 10 plus turns on your buffs, feel free to start padding your damage, right? Using Lamasu's reset and all that, and giving him extra turn meter. But in the beginning, you have to be a little bit careful. You don't want to outrun your buffs with Titus here. We are fortunate, and we are running 3 extenders with Lamasu. Lamasu could be considered a 4th extender because he can reset one of your extenders. And in this type of team, it's pretty safe in terms of the buff extensions and buffs not running out. But you guys will see in the Chimera showcase that it's not as easy there as well, especially without Krisk, because like I said, Krisk covers so much. The other big champion for this Hydra team that can enable you to deal a ton of damage is Yumiko. I'm not using Yumiko. The only reset ability we have is Lamasu, so obviously there's going to be a lot of room for improvement here. So Yumiko, Krisk, those would probably give you the best damage outputs. Basically just give you more growing, more growing, gives you built-in Hex, gives you more A2 from Titus. So yeah, definitely those are the champions you definitely want on this type of team. But we're making it work here with mostly, free to achieve type champions. Lamasu, Lydia, Mikage, Wixwell is a fusion, Hatter was a fusion. Obviously, not everyone was going to have these champions, but I think they're probably a little bit more accessible than some of the other options out there. So anyways, we're at turn 17. We're doing 250 million so far. Let's see how else we do at the end. So here we go. Like I said, guys, you want Titus not to be the highest crit damage champion so that he doesn't get eaten right away. But the success of this run and success of using Titus will come down to when he gets eaten and whether he gets basically 3%ed and then has all his stuff stolen, or how well you manage his shield growth, how well you manage his buffs. If the run goes the full distance in terms of turns, you're going to expect a ton of damage. We're on turn 37. We're almost at 1 billion damage. And yeah, like I said, the run's not going to end until, it's not going to end until one of those things happen. You lose your buffs, your shields break, or he gets eaten, or he gets his shield stolen. So every time he goes in with the A2, it's 60 to 100 million damage on a decapped head, and then it's going to spread a bunch of damage with the Hex damage. So and he gets the A2 relatively quickly as well. He is running Merciless, so he has a chance to reduce cooldown on his A2. We're not using the ally protection as often, so that we end up getting more cooldowns landing on his A2 instead. The ally attacks from Mikage is not going to really do much. She's just kind of there to extend. Her buff reduction is useful in a lot of areas as well, but she's mostly here as an extender. She does provide some buffs, but yeah. For turn 40, just about 1 billion damage here. Let's keep it moving a little bit here. So turn 45, 1.15. Turn 48, 1.25. And realistically, this boss turn counter should be probably somewhere around 160, 180 if we can go the distance. So realistically, we're looking at about 4.5 billion damage if it goes the distance. That's going to be a lot of RNG and optimization, but we're not quite there yet with this. Obviously, I am on the test server, but I don't have access to everything. We're still just using our own accounts here. So there's definitely going to be way more optimized teams, I think. But this just really shows you what can be done with this new Titus fusion. And let's see here. I forgot how this run ends. I think it ended with him getting eaten. Let's go to the end here. Where it turned 60. I think he got eaten. So 66, just under 2 billion damage here. Yes, he did get eaten right here. So he got eaten second. He got eaten second. So that's kind of, bad RNG, right? He got eaten second. If he survived, like, if he was eaten maybe like 4th or 5th, then we can squeeze in more damage and then have a crazier key. But we're at 2 billion, 66 keys in. So it looks like, yeah, about 5 billion, 5 or 6 billion damage against Hydra with this particular team. Like I said, it's not fully optimized, but it is using characters or champions that are more likely accessible to people. I can go over the builds here at the end. Lastly, guys, I want to show you guys this Chimera run that I was doing. Chimera seems to be the trickiest, to be honest, mainly because I don't have all the champions. I lack, Chris would be a big one. He handles a lot. He covers a lot of the stuff that you need for a boss encounter. So I don't have Chris, so we try to make do here. Again, we're running with, of course, Titus, Wixwell. This time we have Lammasu here as well. Lammasu brings the decreased speed, which is really, really important. And at least for my roster, there wasn't too many substitutes for Lammasu. Like you could use like Owella. Owella brings an extension plus decreased speed on the A1. She also brings increased resistance and a bit of healing. Personally, like she kind of works, but I don't think she brings enough. The extension is really nice, so that kind of takes pressure away from losing Lammasu. But then you have to cover the block buffs. You have to cover the block buffs because you don't want the Chimera getting increased speed all the time and then outrunning you, right? So it's really hard to cover all the debuffs and buffs and things that you need for this type of team. But of course you need Titus, of course you need Wixwell or Brogni in this type of team. And then we're adding Sifi in a 9-piece protection set so that we get more buffs up and they're going to be protected. And she's actually really, really important because first of all, she brings increased turn meter, which is really good against Chimera. And then she brings block debuffs, which is really, really good. Because that basically allows us to, and with block debuffs extended, basically protects the team from a lot. I did try to run Lydia in place of Sifi. Again, the block debuffs, very, very important. We are losing decreased defense here. So we don't have decreased defense here. We don't have weaken here either. Just nowhere to fit it in to make this team work. Obviously, if you guys got some big brains out there, maybe some cool combinations with gear, you guys can maybe make it work. But what I found to be very helpful making this team work was actually Demitha. Now, Demitha brings continuous heal, block damage, which is really good. Block damage, obviously, is kind of just there just to protect your shields from taking damage, because not only do you have to grow your shields and extend your shields, you have to protect your shields from getting damaged because that takes away from the growing part and then ultimately takes away damage from Titus. So Demitha's block damage is really good. Also, she brings continuous heals, and then if you put her in a 9-piece protection set, she's going to be boosting damage the whole way. She also brings an extension and a heal as well. So I think she works really well, and I basically sub her in for Mikage. I think the continuous heals from her kind of give more consistent buffs, to be honest. Gives more buffs than Mikage, and then the extension is really good as well, obviously. And then the block damage actually is very useful. So we can run over this run here real quick. I'll show you guys exactly how it works. Obviously, same kind of strategy here. You want to get your buffs set up first before you use Wixwell's A2 to grow. However you do that is based on whatever turn order you have everybody in. Usually I get all the buffs going and then use Wixwell's A2. Yeah, you can see here his A2, Titus's A2 after 1 grow. It's not going to be very powerful, but it's going to scale up over time. You can kind of see there, I just used the A1 to save the A2 until after the shield has grown a little bit more. Now I'm going to use Wixwell's A2 to place the shield on. And then we're going to be using Lamassu to reset Wixwell. And then we're going to get more growing and then more extending going on. Using the A3 here on Wixwell and Titus, I think you want to use it a little bit sparingly because like I said, we have Merciless gear on them. So we want the cooldown turn reduction to land on the key skills, which is Wixwell's A2 and Titus's A2, as opposed to landing on the other skills. So I do use them a bit sparingly. I use the ally protection skill before any kind of extensions, like especially Wixwell's A2. It just gives a couple extra buffs. We are running the magma shield, so it gives an extra team shield. So you start with the shield set and the magma shield. That's quite a bit of extra shielding. And then obviously we have a shield placed by skill as well, by Wixwell here. But yeah, you basically just want to focus in on the A2 from Wixwell. You want to use Lamassu's reset on Wixwell's A2 as often as possible. A lot of this is, it's all manual, right? It's all manual play, trying to get the optimized skill happening at the right times. And you can kind of see there, I'm checking the buffs very often, making sure that the shields have proper duration, make sure everything looks good. We're going to go in there, and then his damage is going to start scaling up. Here. So we just saw 1 million damage hit. And all this without decreased defense, without weaken. If we had those, a much nicer time, to be honest. But let's quickly go over some of this. We're going to jump in here against the Ram form. And again, with Demitha, you can actually deal some damage against the Ram using the block damage here, which is really, really good. And like I said, the continuous heal is really solid. It just kind of stacks up, keeps everybody alive. Obviously, you're trading Mikage's crit damage and all that stuff. But I do think that Demitha is probably a little bit better, I think a little bit better than Mikage, maybe. She also provides an extra shield buff as well on her A1. And yeah, the block damage, protecting your shield's very, very nice. So here we go. You don't want to use your A2 against the Ram because you start dealing damage to your shield. You don't want to damage your shield you don't want to use the A2 without using the block damage. Okay, so that's going to be the Ram form. And then we can go back to the ultimate form. You kind of see the damage ramping up here a lot. So we start we're going to come out of the Ram form with about 20 million. And then during the ultimate form, you kind of saw like we did 5 turns. And then we went up to about 70 million. Quite a bit of extra damage there. He's starting to hit for a lot now. You can kind of see the shields, the little bars, getting really, really big. Or getting really small, sorry. And you see way more bars. The fastest champions will run out of the buffs the fastest, of course. So Sifi, Demitha, they're the fastest ones. But as long as Titus has all the buffs, you're all good. So I'm checking the buffs here: shield, magma shield, normal shield. They got 6, 7, 8 turns duration right now. It means that I can start using Lamassu to A3 Titus for some extra hits in. There you go, 11 million damage on his A2. Now, we're not going to go through every little bit of his hits here on this video against Chimera, but he was doing basically around 15 to 20 million at the peak for his damage without Mikage. So with Mikage and the crit damage buff, he was doing just about 20, 22-ish, a little bit over 20, a little bit higher. But I think the block damage really, really helps a little bit here from Demitha. And obviously, like if you don't have Mikage, then Demitha could be a more accessible champion. She is just an epic and all that. But yeah, let's keep going here. We'll move on. You can kind of see the damage really going crazy here. We're halfway through Chimera, and this is where a bit of the problems happen. 27. He stole the counterattack, which is super annoying. Stole the counterattack. We got out of it. We had to limit our damage a little bit. He stole the counterattack from us, which is fine because then we have the block damage. This is an issue that Mikage can kind of deal with when she uses her A2. It kind of reduces the buffs. So if the counterattack gets stolen, then you can kind of reduce it. But you are taking quite a bit of damage here from the constant A1s. So the block damage does help here a little bit. But we do get out of this, and then we come into here. You can kind of see halfway through, we're at 250 million. So, this run, if it goes the distance, it should go about 500 at least 500, because the early turns are a bunch of ramp up turns. So it should go at least 500 million. And I forgot what happened here. I think what happened was that I used my A2 into the ram without block damage on, and then I took so much damage against the shield. I think I broke one of them. And then I just ended the run there. But if I didn't blunder that, I probably would have gotten all the way to the end. This is a very, very good and safe run. But yeah, I'll show you guys the results here. All right, I think at this point I realized something was wrong because I went in on the A2 and it was only 8 million damage. So then I think I realized something was wrong. Just about 300 million damage right now. 2/3 of the way there to the end. And I think at this point I check my info and I realized one of the shields broke. So I probably broke the shield when I went with an A2 into the ram form. So it's just me not paying attention. But you can kind of see 293 million after 44 turns. Obviously, we lost a bit of damage there because we were hitting with the one less shield. But yeah, he's good for a couple 100 million damage against the Chimera. You're not going to get a lot of trials out of him, but you're going to get some pretty good damage. I'm sure with further optimization, he's going to be, included in a lot of these high damage teams. But this is what I can do with my account. All right, so I'll quickly show you guys the champions that I use and the builds that I used them in. Basically the same for all of the bosses that we showcased in this video. Mikage is going to run a 9-piece protection set. This is probably just the best set. So if you're going to use her, she gets the bonuses from the ally attack here. So you get an extra 10% damage. Titus is going to get benefits from all that feral set, protection set, crit damage, all the damage boosting stuff. If you have like feral or something, then he's going to get all of that damage boosting stuff. Yeah, so this is my Mikage. I do have bonuses for Hydra. Guys, see here 375 with the full bonuses. If you're doing, Nightmare Hydra, you're looking for about 350 accuracy. If you're doing if you're doing Ultra Nightmare Chimera, you're probably looking for 400, 450 accuracy. So just keep that in mind when you're building out. No relics on her. Cruelty. And then, yeah, so that's her 9-piece protection. Here's the Titus that we were using in the build, or in all the teams here. We got 240 speed. He is the slowest one. Like I said, you don't want him to outrun the buffs. As high crit damage as you can make him. I have him with resistance. Against the Chimera, you want about 550 resistance. Against the Hydras, you can get away with 500. So just something to keep in mind there. So for example, my Hydra stats are, a lot more. He can definitely cover the Hydras. But yeah, this is the build here. He does scale off of defense and HP. So, having both is very good. You don't need 100% crit rate unless you can afford to put that in without losing too many stats. His A2 will always crit, so it's all good. But yeah, go for the big crit damage if you can. No accuracy needed on him. I have Cat's Gaze for additional ignore defense. We are running 6-piece Merciless. So Merciless gives you 35% plus 16% from the Cat's Gaze. That's 51% ignore defense. And then we are running Helm Smasher as well. Helm Smasher is going to give us a conditional 25%. So we can ignore 76% of defense, occasionally at the best. Like I said, we weren't running defense down. So, we're leaving some damage on the table. And we weren't running weaken as well. So there's definitely ways to optimize to deal even more damage. I do have a shield ring on him. It's not really necessary to run a shield ring on him because you do have, shield buffs from Wixwell and stuff, and the buffs will never fall off. Cat's Gaze, we're running with Ignore Defense here as well, so you're running an extra 6%. So we're running 82%, and then the mythical boss gem, if you have it, is really, really nice, extra 10% damage. Crushing Rend, of course, on the 6-star, and then with Crushing Rend, with the Helm Smasher proc will be 100%, so we don't need the decreased defense, but it's just not 100% there, right? So it's not 100% Ignore Defense. Obviously, 6-star Crushing Rend, very, very strong. Masteries, yeah, Masteries, pretty standard Masteries. Go down to Helm Smasher for additional Ignore Defense. If you have 100% crit, 100% damage, Ignore Defense somewhere, then you go down to Flawless Execution for some more crit damage. So that's going to be Titus here. For Lydia, I'm running the standard Feral set. For Lydia, is just the most damage. Enough accuracy, has a little bit of resistance as well, so she can actually resist some of the Hydras, but that wasn't intentional. Also, no relics, running Brimstone, War Master, and yeah, very, very good build. And then we have Mad Hatter here. So Mad Hatter, I have him in the shield set. You have to run one shield set in all these teams to start off your team with the shield so that you can grow and extend it. Mad Hatter here, I do have him in Merciless. So Merciless gives you a chance to reset, well, not reset, but reduce the cooldown skill by 1 turn. Obviously, getting more of the A3 is going to be really good with the extensions and all that. But yeah, he's really good. Just consistently places Hex and all that. So that's really, really nice. Especially for Hydras and stuff when they start dying. We do run the Volcardiac Heart on this team. So every team, if you have one champion with the Cardiac Heart, it's going to be really, really good because it basically just gives you an extra shield set, right? Extra shield set that you can grow and you can extend, and that just means more damage for everybody. So we got the heart here, nothing crazy in terms of the gems or anything. And then we have Wixwell. So Wixwell running Reflex with the 40% chance to reduce by 1 turn, and then we're running Merciless as well, so an additional 30% to reduce by 1 turn. And like I said, guys, if you can not use this as often, then this will get targeted by those reductions, I believe, giving you more of the A2s, more growing, more extending. So it's all good stuff. For him, you want him basically quick. These are all pretty, beefy stats, of course. You don't want them too fast against Hydra because you start lapping the Hydras too quickly. But for Chimera, you basically just go to the moon with how fast you want them to go. Again, we run with the heart. I believe I wasn't running Hatter against the Chimera. That's why I had the heart on Wixwell, just to get that buff going. And then yeah, War Master there. You don't have to run 2 hearts. Like you just have one heart is fine. You don't even have to run the heart. But yeah, you're just gonna get less damage out of it. All right, so for Lammasu, for Hydra, I was running her in a Hex set. And I wanted her to have more crit damage than our Titus, so that she gets targeted first. I mean, this can apply to any one of your champions. You don't want Titus to have the most crit damage in the whole team. I think I was running a different amulet. I was running a crit damage amulet, but anyways, she was running the highest crit damage, and then she was running a bit more speed. But she was running a Hex set, and then she's running the Harp. I found actually a use for this because she has 2 abilities that deal no damage, which means, she's more likely to get some extra turn meters. So that's actually not too bad for the Harp here. If you guys have one, it's not too bad. War Master was running Brimstone on her. And yeah, that's my Lammasu for the Hydra. For the Chimera, it's a little bit different. Like I said, I wasn't running Hatter for Chimera. So for Chimera, I was basically running this build, similar to what Hatter's running, a shield set plus Merciless. Like Merciless gives you a chance to reduce 1 turn cooldown, and of course you need the shield set to start off the fight. So this is the shield set build, obviously much faster for Chimera with a little bit more accuracy, and that's my Lammasu. And lastly, this is the Mytha that I was running here. Again, Harp works really well for her as well. She has 2 abilities that deal no damage, and you basically use these all the time, so she's just getting tons of turn meter. 9-piece protection set seems to work pretty good. She could give you some additional damage from her continuous heals that stick around. War Master for some additional damage, and she's just super fast. A little bit, high on the crit rate, just so she can deal some damage. But yeah, so that's the myth. I think she worked out pretty good. If you want to try out Mikage for more, maybe more damage, but maybe less stable, then Mikage could work as well. Anyways, folks, that's going to be it for this showcase. It's more of a Titus versus all the bosses, what he can actually do. This is more reflective of what my account can do. Obviously, if you have some of the more key champions, namely Krisk and Yumiko, then you're going to be seeing some crazy numbers, especially for Hydra. For Chimera, I do think it's a little bit more tricky because of all the debuffs and buffs and abilities that you actually need to make this team work. And also having only 5 members instead of 6 members makes building the team a little bit more difficult as well. I believe Androck is very, very strong for this as well because he does have an extension. He does bring additional buffs as well. But he's a mythical. I don't really have him. I don't really want to playtest him and show you guys mythicals in action. So anyways, guys, hopefully this was informative. Hopefully it will help you guys out in getting some ideas on what you guys want to do with Titus and how he can work best. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Appreciate your time. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.